Imagine this. A client gives you a small budget and expects results within 7 days. No previous data, no proven ads, no guarantee anything will work. And then they ask you one simple question. So, when will I start getting leads? Now suddenly, everything feels different because this is no longer a classroom discussion. This is real money, real expectations, real pressure. Now imagine making the wrong decision. You target the wrong audience. Budget gets wasted. You choose the wrong platform. Nothing converts. And within days, the client starts losing confidence in you. Now the pressure becomes even bigger because every next decision feels risky. Should you change the ads, change the targeting, or completely change the strategy? And now something becomes clear. Knowing marketing concepts is not enough anymore. You have to make decisions even when you are uncertain. This is the part most candidates never prepare for because interviews usually teach you what marketing is, but they rarely teach you how to handle real execution pressure when things are uncertain. And that is exactly where most people struggle. Not because they lack knowledge, but because they have never practiced thinking like someone managing a real client situation. And in this video, that is exactly what we are going to work on. What interviewer is really testing. Now here's something most candidates misunderstand about execution-based interview questions. The interviewer is not expecting perfect answers. They are trying to understand how you behave under pressure. Let's imagine a situation. A client campaign is not performing well. Leads are low, budget is limited, and now the interviewer asks you, what will you do first? At first, many candidates panic internally because they feel like they must immediately give the best solution. But then something important happens. They start jumping between ideas. Change the ad, change the targeting, change the platform, and suddenly, their answer starts feeling scattered. Now compare that with a different approach. Instead of reacting emotionally, you slow the situation down. You identify the biggest problem first. You prioritize one action. And then you explain why that decision matters most right now. Now something changes. Your answer feels controlled. It feels practical. And that is exactly what interviewers are looking for. Because in real campaigns, pressure is normal. But strong marketers don't react randomly. They make calm, structured decisions under uncertainty. Now think about your own answers. Are you trying to sound smart quickly? Or are you showing how you think clearly under pressure? Before we move into more real-world scenarios, it's important to understand how to approach execution-based questions in interviews. Because this is where many candidates lose control of their answers. Let's imagine a situation. You are given a campaign problem with limited information. The interviewer asks you what you would do. At first, your mind starts searching for the perfect solution. But then something becomes clear. Real execution problems rarely have perfect answers. And that is where confusion begins. Because most candidates try to solve everything at once. But execution questions don't work that way. You have to simplify the situation first. What is the biggest problem right now? What is affecting performance the most? What action would create the fastest learning? Now something changes. Your answer becomes structured instead of reactive. And that is exactly what interviewers want to see. Because in real campaigns, execution is not about doing everything. It is about identifying what matters most first. Now think about your own answers. Are you trying to solve everything immediately? Or are you prioritizing the most important action first? Now let's move into a real client situation. Imagine a local business owner wants more leads, but the budget is very small. And the interviewer asks you, how will you run this campaign? At first, many candidates make the same mistake. They try to advertise everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Google, because they feel more platforms means more chances of success. But then something happens. The budget gets divided too much. Now no platform gets enough data. No campaign performs properly. And slowly, everything becomes inconsistent. Now the situation becomes even more difficult. The client starts expecting results, but nothing feels stable yet. And that pressure keeps increasing. This is where execution thinking changes. Instead of trying to do everything, you focus on one strong starting point. You choose the platform most likely to convert. You target the most relevant audience first. And instead of testing many messages, you test one clear offer properly. Now something changes. Your budget becomes more effective. Your learning becomes faster. Because in real campaigns, small budgets need focus, not complexity. Now think about your answer. Are you spreading resources everywhere? Or concentrating them where results are most likely? Now let's look at another situation that creates pressure very quickly. A client starts running ads with you. And after just a few days, they ask, "Why am I not getting results yet?" At first, this can feel uncomfortable because the campaign is still new. Data is still limited, but the client already expects visible outcomes. Now, many candidates make a mistake here. They start promising fast results just to reduce pressure, but then something dangerous happens. If the campaign still doesn't improve quickly, trust starts breaking. And once confidence drops, managing the client becomes even harder. This is where execution thinking changes. Instead of making emotional promises, you manage expectations clearly from the beginning. You explain the testing phase. You explain why data needs time. And at the same time, you show the client what is already being learned from the campaign. Now something changes. The client feels informed instead of ignored. Expectations become more realistic. Because in real campaigns, managing communication is just as important as managing ads. Now think about your answer. Are you trying to reduce pressure with promises or building trust through clarity and communication? Now let's look at a situation where many marketers get confused. Your ads are performing well. People are clicking, traffic is coming in, but conversions are still very low. And the interviewer asks you, what could be the issue? At first, many candidates focus only on the ads. They think the creative needs improvement, or maybe the targeting is weak. But then something important happens. What if the ad is not the real problem at all? Now imagine this situation. The user clicks the ad, but when they reach the landing page, the message feels unclear. The offer is confusing. The page loads slowly. And slowly, the user loses interest and leaves. Now something becomes clear. Getting traffic is only one part of execution. The full user experience matters. This is where execution thinking changes. Instead of blaming only the ads, you start analyzing the complete conversion journey. What happens after the click? What is stopping the user from taking action? Now something changes. Your optimization becomes more accurate because in real campaigns, strong ads cannot fix a weak experience. Now think about your answer. Are you only analyzing traffic? Or are you analyzing what happens after the click? Now let's look at another common execution problem. Your campaign starts performing well. Leads are coming in, engagement looks strong. And for a while, everything feels stable. But then something changes. Performance slowly starts dropping. Clicks become lower. Cost starts increasing. And the interviewer asks you, what could be happening here? At first, many candidates think the targeting is wrong, or maybe the budget needs adjustment. But then something important becomes clear. The audience may have already seen the same ad too many times. Now imagine this situation. People keep seeing the same creative again and again. At first, it grabs attention, but over time, they stop noticing it. And slowly, performance starts declining. This is where execution thinking changes. You realize that even strong creatives lose impact over time. So instead of waiting for the campaign to fail completely, you refresh the creative before performance drops too far. You test new angles, new visuals, new messaging. Now something changes. The campaign starts feeling fresh again. Because in real campaigns, attention decreases when repetition increases. Now think about your answer. Are you reacting after performance drops? Or preparing before creative fatigue becomes a bigger problem? Now let's look at a problem that can destroy a campaign very quickly. Your ads are getting impressions. People are clicking. but the leads coming in are poor quality. And the interviewer asks you, what could be causing this? At first, many candidates focus only on the number of leads. They think more leads means the campaign is working. But then something important happens. The client starts complaining. The leads are not serious. They are not converting. And suddenly, high lead volume stops looking impressive. Now something becomes clear. The problem may not be the ad performance. It may be the audience itself. Now imagine this situation. Your targeting is too broad. So even though many people are clicking, the wrong people are entering the funnel. And slowly, budget gets wasted on low-quality traffic. This is where execution thinking changes. Instead of focusing only on quantity, you focus on relevance and intent. You refine the audience. You narrow the targeting. And now something changes. Fewer leads come in, but the quality becomes stronger. Because in real campaigns, better leads matter more than bigger numbers. Now think about your answer. Are you chasing volume only? Or are you optimizing for quality and conversion intent? Now let's look at a situation that creates pressure for many marketers. A client sees another business getting strong results online, and suddenly they ask you, why are their ads performing better than ours? At first, this question feels uncomfortable, because now the comparison becomes emotional. And many candidates make a mistake here. They immediately start blaming the algorithm, or the budget, or the competition. But then something important happens. That answer doesn't build confidence. Now imagine this situation. Instead of reacting defensively, you start analyzing the difference logically. What audience are competitors targeting? What offer are they pushing? What kind of messaging are they using? Now something changes. The conversation becomes strategic instead of emotional. And slowly, the client starts seeing that performance is not random. It comes from positioning, execution, testing. This is where execution thinking changes. Instead of comparing emotionally, you identify what can actually be improved. Now something changes. The client starts focusing on solutions instead of frustration. Because in real campaigns, competitors are not just threats. They are also learning opportunities. Now think about your answer. Are you reacting emotionally to comparison or turning comparison into strategic analysis? Now let's look at a mistake that ruins many campaigns without people realizing it. Performance starts dropping, and suddenly panic begins. The targeting changes. The creatives change. The landing page changes. Everything gets modified at the same time. And the interviewer asks you, what is the risk in doing this? At first, many candidates think making more changes means solving the problem faster. But then something important happens. You lose clarity completely. Now imagine this situation. Performance improves slightly, but you don't know why. Or performance gets worse. And again, you don't know what caused it. Now the campaign becomes harder to manage because too many variables change together. This is where execution thinking changes. Instead of changing everything, you isolate the problem step by step. You test one major change at a time. You observe the result clearly. And now something changes. Your decisions become measurable. Your learning becomes reliable. Because in real campaigns, fast reactions can create more confusion than progress. Now think about your answer. Are you changing everything under pressure? Or controlling variables to understand what actually works? At this point, something important should become very clear. Execution problems are rarely solved by random actions. They are solved through controlled thinking and prioritization. Let's imagine a situation. Two marketers face the same campaign problem. Performance is dropping. The client is becoming impatient. The first marketer reacts emotionally. They start changing multiple things quickly, hoping something improves. At first, it feels productive, but then something happens. The campaign becomes even harder to understand. Now the pressure increases even more. The client keeps asking questions. Results are still unstable, and suddenly, every new decision starts feeling risky. Now compare that with a different approach. The second marketer slows the situation down. They identify the biggest issue first. They test one important change carefully, And now something changes. The campaign becomes easier to analyze. Decisions become clearer because instead of reacting emotionally, they are controlling the process step by step. And that is the real difference in execution thinking. Because in real campaigns, pressure is unavoidable, but panic creates bad decisions. Now think about your own approach. Are you reacting emotionally under pressure or creating structure before making decisions? Now let's talk about something many candidates underestimate in execution-based roles: client communication. Because even when campaigns are running correctly, clients can still feel frustrated if communication is unclear. Now imagine this situation. A campaign is still in the testing phase. Data is improving slowly, but results are not fully stable yet. And the client asks you, why are we not seeing stronger results already? At first, many marketers feel pressure here because they want to protect the relationship. So they start over-explaining or making promises too early. But then something important happens. Unclear communication creates more confusion. Now the client becomes more anxious. And slowly, trust starts weakening. This is where execution thinking changes. Instead of trying to sound perfect, you focus on clarity and transparency. You explain what is working, what is still being tested, and what decisions will come next based on the data. Now something changes. The client feels informed instead of uncertain. Expectations become more realistic. Because in real campaigns, communication is not separate from execution. It is part of execution itself. Now think about your approach. Are you trying to reduce pressure with promises or building trust through clarity and communication? At this stage, most candidates start realizing something important. Execution problems are not always caused by lack of knowledge. Many times, they are caused by lack of clarity under pressure. Now imagine this situation. A campaign starts underperforming. The client is asking questions. Results are inconsistent. And suddenly, every decision starts feeling urgent. Now many marketers make the same mistake. They rush into action without slowing down to understand the actual problem first. At first, this feels productive because changes are happening quickly. But then something important happens. Fast action without clarity creates more instability. Now performance becomes harder to read. The client becomes more confused. And slowly, pressure keeps increasing instead of improving. This is where execution thinking changes completely. Instead of reacting to pressure, you create structure before action. You identify the biggest issue first. You simplify the situation. And then you decide what matters most right now. Now something changes. Your decisions become calmer. Your execution becomes more controlled. Because in real campaigns, speed without clarity creates chaos. Clarity creates better execution. Now think about your own approach. Are you reacting quickly under pressure or slowing down enough to make better decisions? So at this point, something important should become very clear. Real execution confidence does not come from memorizing perfect answers. It comes from learning how to stay clear under pressure. Let's look at what happens with many candidates. At first, they focus heavily on learning concepts, metrics, strategies, tools, and all of that is important. But then they enter a real execution scenario. A client is waiting. Performance is unstable. Decisions need to be made quickly. And suddenly, confidence starts disappearing. Because now the pressure feels real. Now many people try to solve this by learning even more information. But then something becomes clear. Real execution never feels completely certain. And that is where the real shift happens. Confidence grows when you learn how to think clearly, even in imperfect situations. You stop depending on perfect conditions and start trusting your ability to analyze and decide step by step. Now something changes. Pressure still exists, but it stops controlling your decisions. Because in real campaigns, confidence is not the absence of uncertainty. It is the ability to think clearly while uncertainty exists. Now think about your own preparation. Are you trying to eliminate uncertainty completely? Or learning how to operate calmly even when uncertainty is present? So if you are preparing for digital marketing interviews, it's important to understand one final thing. Real execution is not about having perfect certainty. It is about making clear decisions even when situations feel uncertain. Because once you start understanding that, your thinking changes, your answers become calmer, and your confidence becomes more natural. Now something important starts happening. You stop trying to sound impressive and start focusing on solving real problems. And that is what separates theoretical knowledge from real execution thinking. Because in real campaigns, clients ask difficult questions. Performance changes constantly. Pressure always exists. But strong marketers learn how to stay clear even during unstable situations. And over time, interviews stop feeling like tests. They start feeling like real business conversations. Because at that point, you are no longer trying to prove what you know. You are showing that you can think calmly under pressure. And that is exactly what interviewers are looking for. Now, if you know someone preparing for interviews or struggling with execution thinking, feel free to share this series with them. And in the next part, we'll move deeper into advanced client situations, scaling pressure, and decision-making during real campaign challenges. Watch the previous parts, stay connected, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.